Imagine waking up 40,000 years ago. You look around your camp. Everyone has hair. But something immediately stands out. Almost nobody has bright blonde hair. Nobody has naturally red hair. And silver haired grandparents are rare simply because few people live that long. Which raises a fascinating question. Why do humans have different hair colors? Today, human hair comes in an incredible variety. Black, brown, blonde, red, gray, white. Some people even have several different shades at once. But this diversity didn't appear overnight. Like skin color, eye color, and countless other human traits, hair color is the product of evolution. It begins with a tiny pigment called melanin. Melanin is the molecule responsible for much of the color in your body. It helps determine the color of your skin, your eyes, and your hair. There are two main forms involved in hair color: eumelanin and pheomelanin. Eumelanin produces black and brown shades. The more eumelanin your hair contains, the darker it becomes. Pheomelanin creates yellow and reddish tones. Different combinations of these pigments produce the wide range of natural hair colors seen today. At first, however, the situation was much simpler. The earliest modern humans almost certainly had dark hair, just as they almost certainly had dark skin. This wasn't a coincidence. Dark pigmentation offered important advantages under the intense sunlight of Africa, where our species evolved. Dark hair helps protect the scalp from ultraviolet radiation. It also absorbs sunlight efficiently while shielding the skin beneath. For humans living under powerful tropical sun every day, these advantages mattered. For hundreds of thousands of years, dark hair was overwhelmingly the norm. Then something changed. Humans began leaving Africa. Small groups gradually spread into the Middle East, Europe, Asia, eventually Australia, and much later the Americas. As populations became separated, evolution began following different paths. Climate changed, sunlight changed, food changed, isolation changed everything. Every generation introduces tiny genetic mutations. Most disappear, some spread. Occasionally, one creates a visible difference, perhaps slightly lighter hair or slightly darker hair. On their own, these changes mean very little, but across thousands of generations, they accumulate. Europe provides one of the most interesting examples. As humans settled farther north, sunlight became weaker, especially during long winters. Dark skin gradually became less necessary. Lighter skin evolved because it allowed more efficient vitamin D production. At the same time, some populations also began developing lighter hair: brown, dark blonde, blonde. Exactly why this happened remains debated. Some scientists believe natural selection played a role. Others think sexual selection may have contributed. Sexual selection works differently from survival selection. Sometimes a trait spreads simply because other people find it attractive. Peacocks are a famous example. Their enormous, colorful tails actually make survival harder. Yet females often prefer males with impressive feathers. As a result, the trait continues spreading. Some researchers believe something similar may have happened with human hair. Imagine a small Ice Age community. Most people have dark hair. Then, one child is born with unusually light blonde hair because of a rare mutation. That child immediately stands out. Something rare naturally attracts attention. If unusual traits become desirable, they can gradually become more common over many generations. This idea remains controversial. No one knows exactly how much influence sexual selection had, but it remains one possible explanation. Red hair followed an even rarer path. Today, natural red hair occurs in only a small percentage of the world's population. Most redheads trace much of their ancestry to Northern and Western Europe. The color results primarily from changes in a gene known as MC1R. This gene influences the balance between eumelanin and pheomelanin. Certain variations produce far more reddish pigment than usual. The result is red hair, often accompanied by fair skin and freckles. Interestingly, not every redhead inherited exactly the same mutation. Several different genetic variations can produce similar appearances. Nature often arrives at similar results through multiple genetic routes. Blonde hair also evolved more than once. European blonde hair and some forms of blonde hair found in Oceania appear to have developed through different genetic changes. Two populations can arrive at similar appearances without sharing the exact same mutation. Evolution is remarkably creative. Then there is black hair. Despite all the attention lighter colors receive, black hair remains the most common natural hair color on Earth. Billions of people have it, and for good reason. It reflects our evolutionary history. Most human populations retained the ancestral dark pigmentation that existed long before blonde or red hair appeared. Brown hair occupies the middle ground. It contains less eumelanin than black hair, but more than blonde hair. Today, brown hair is extremely common across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and the Americas. Like many human traits, it exists along a spectrum rather than inside neat categories. Hair color also changes throughout life. Many blonde children develop darker hair as they grow older. Hormones influence pigment production. A toddler with pale blonde hair may become a brunette by adulthood. The genes remain the same, only their expression changes. Then comes aging. Every hair grows from a follicle containing pigment-producing cells called melanocytes. Over time, these cells gradually become less active. Eventually, some stop producing pigment altogether. When a hair grows without melanin, it appears gray or white. Gray hair is simply a mixture of pigmented and unpigmented hairs. White hair contains almost no pigment at all. In other words, your hair doesn't actually turn white overnight. Individual hairs simply begin growing without color. Stress has often been blamed for gray hair. Reality is more complicated. Severe stress may influence pigment loss in some circumstances, but age remains the biggest factor. The older we become, the fewer active pigment cells remain. Even identical twins can go gray at different rates. Genes matter, environment matters, chance matters too. Hair color is also more complicated than simple labels suggest. Look closely at someone's hair in sunlight. Individual strands often vary. Some appear lighter, others darker. Beards frequently differ from scalp hair. Someone with brown hair may grow a reddish beard, or blonde eyebrows. Different parts of the body regulate pigment somewhat differently. This creates remarkable variety even within a single person. Modern humans have introduced yet another layer: hair dye. For thousands of years, people have experimented with changing their appearance. Ancient Egyptians used plant-based dyes. Romans experimented with different coloring methods. Today, millions of people regularly change their hair color using modern chemistry. Blonde becomes black, black becomes red, gray disappears entirely. Unlike genetic evolution, these transformations happen in hours instead of generations. Yet beneath every bottle of hair dye lies the same biological system that evolved over thousands of years: melanin, genes, evolution. Perhaps the most fascinating part of this story is that hair color itself was never the goal. Evolution wasn't trying to create blonde people, or brunettes, or redheads. It simply favored traits that helped individuals reproduce successfully within particular environments. Sometimes survival mattered most. Sometimes attraction may have mattered. Sometimes random chance shaped entire populations. Evolution has no artist, no designer, no final blueprint, only countless generations of small changes accumulating over enormous stretches of time. So why do humans have different hair colors? Because populations spread across the world. Genes changed, mutations appeared, some disappeared, others survived, generation after generation, until humanity developed the extraordinary diversity we see today. The next time you look in a mirror, remember this: whether your hair is black, brown, blonde, red, gray, or white, its color is the result of an evolutionary story stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. A story that began in Africa, continued across continents, and still continues today. Because every strand of hair carries a tiny piece of human history.